Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
What is up, everyone? We're live from the U.S. Open. Got my man Oscar Dominguez joining me on the show. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear us all right. It's our first show from out here at Harris. Buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. You got the day off today?
I do.
Yeah? Let's talk about your match from yesterday. Matches from yesterday.
Matches, yeah. I won my first one against a good player from Virginia. Played pretty good on him, and then I played Petri, and it was a solid match. We both played pretty well. I think he missed a 6 ball that he shouldn't have, but other than that, pretty strong match.
What's your best performance at a U.S. Open?
5th.
Yeah?
I got 5th at the U.S. Open. That's my all-time best performance.
Who did you lose to?
Jason Shaw and Darren Appleton. Jason ended up winning the event, I believe. No.
What year was this? Because that must have been when Darren was like in his prime.
Darren was playing good. This was probably Desi and I were married, so probably 7 years ago still. I also SVB, I think it was.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah. I don't know.
Dwayne in the chat says the sound is fine, which is awesome. You mentioned SVB. That's been the talk of the entire event, was the SVB Fedor match. Now, me and you talked before we went to, actually, whenever we left the Brunswick factory, I asked you who you bet on, and I know you got a real stellar performance on side betting matches. Who did you end up having your money on?
I had some money on Fedor.
How did that work out for you?
It did not work out very well.
Did that match go about how you planned it to go, or you thought it would go?
No, not even close. I think Fedor got so fatigued. And I think Shane showed a lot of grit, lots of credit to him. I think his break was a little bit more aggressive, I guess, whereas Fedor was trying to control everything too much.
It's fair.
And I think that bit Fedor in the ass, besides a couple of mistakes that he made that I was like, whoa, what happened here?
I've talked to a lot of players, and it was kind of a lot of them were echoing the same thing. I feel like he's so process-oriented, which is great, and that serves him very well, like during tournaments. And even talking with Johan, it's like even whenever you get fatigued, you can always rely on your muscle memory, right, or your mechanics and your fundamentals and things like that. The problem is that when you use so much energy into doing that for 12 hours, 14 hours, that's when it can start to wear on you a little bit, and you can, the arm can get a little heavy.
Yeah, definitely. You're absolutely right. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few days. A lot of people with a lot of opinions. Filler said he's willing to play. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the guy can get staked playing Shane and/or Fedor?
I mean, just with Hank Smith alone, I know Uncle Hank is probably watching. He's good for 10. Roy's Basement is going to be good for 10 just to watch it. I mean, there's already 20 out the gate just off the top of my head. And just in my little Facebook group chat that I'm in, there's going to be a couple of guys who are going to bet 5,000, 10,000 each. So I think there can be a nice 50 to 100K bet.
Do you think that's the matchup guys want to see outside of the Fedor and Shane one? Because for me, I thought before Fedor and Shane played that the Filler being in the mix with really either one of those two guys was the matchup that fans across the world really want to see.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and Filler's not the typical gambler, quote unquote, that we expect.
Well, he is, but he isn't.
He is and he isn't. Yeah. I mean, he's Europe's best gambler.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to steal Fedor and make him American right now, but.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, and the kid's a machine. The kid doesn't miss. It's hard not to want to watch that because you're just going to see firepower against firepowers. There's not going to be too much ducking.
No, and, I talked to Filler yesterday, and he said, he's willing to play, and I flat out told him, I said, listen, I don't think you got the 10-ball break that can get there. And he said, if we play on matchroom style table, right? Brand new cloth, polished balls, 4-inch pockets with the template. He said he was willing to dance. And from talking with him off air, his confidence is pretty high. And I heard during that match, after watching those guys kind of struggle at points, where he was like, you know what, I got a real good shot at this. He's not known to have a big 10 ball break like Federer or Shane, though. So I was a bit surprised. But man, I tell you what, just given the way that matchup went, the excitement and everything, I want to see Federer get in the mix there.
Yeah, I mean, he does more of a medium draw break where he draws the one ball down table, the cue ball rebounds off the stack, off the break, and he tries to trickle the second balls in.
Right.
That's his break.
That little pop, soft break.
The soft pop break, yeah.
If he were to get that going,
it's unreal. I mean, who knows how many racks he can run with his ball pocket and his run out ability. I think it's a fair statement across the board, in my opinion, that Filler is a better run-out player than both SVB and Fedor.
Well, that's a big statement. Like,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, but
he's for sure the straightest shooter. You can't argue that.
I don't know. I just think Filler gets out of situations that most people don't, with his banking ability and his. I don't know. I hope it happens. I think it's good for the sport that these big matches are happening. Because it gets people who aren't really involved in the sport getting back into it.
It was a real big support from the fans, which is awesome. It's been the buzz coming into the event. You know, everywhere you look, everyone you talk to, can you believe what happened? You know, it's what everyone's chirping about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people lost a lot of money there.
Either way, right? On both sides of it. I mean, it's been unreal. And I think throwing Josh into that mix is going to be a great dynamic. Obviously, there's that rivalry there when it comes to the Moscone Cup stuff. And that's why I think the Shane matchup is especially intriguing. And I kind of want to see Shane first before Shane gives Federer a rematch, because let's say between me and you, right? Nobody watched the show anyway. Between me and you, I'd probably bet on Federer against Shane if they played again. But if Josh were to beat Shane, then it's like it sets up the Federer versus Josh matchup that people are going to want to see as well.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's gambling. So one of the really interesting dynamics about gambling with somebody is people match up better against other styles.
Yeah.
So even though, let's say Federer loses to Filler or beats Filler, it doesn't matter. I mean, the action's still going to go between those three guys because they're all match up a little different. Their styles clash.
Well, they're each other's only hope.
Right.
I mean, let's be real. Nobody else is going to fuck with them. You know?
No.
Yeah.
Kachi maybe.
No disrespect, but you ain't got no chance playing 10 ball with either one of those guys.
I'll bust them. They give me the right spot. They got to give me
the line's juicy.
The line's juicy. Yeah. Give me some games on the wire. I'll play.
You mentioned Kachi. He's been a little vocal on social media. Says, "Hey, by the way, I'm the 2-time world 10 ball champion. We know that dude's break, whether it's 9 ball or 10 ball. How much of a chance does he really have? Let's start off with getting staked against either one of these guys.
Getting staked? Not very good. I mean, there might be some chance here and there. I mean, you just got to find the right person.
Got to find someone to believe.
Right. Set for 20, yes, he'll get staked. Set for 20 or 30.
Just a fire at it.
Just a fire at it. Just a swing at it.
But that's not going to get Shane, Josh, or Federer in the box.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be at least 50 to 100.
Yeah.
I mean, like again, I've had a stake horse that said, "Go play Dennis Urquillo even for 100,000, race to 7," and I'm like, no, you know him, you know who he is, a poker player. You get the right guy behind you and who loves to gamble enough,
just wants the action.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't think you're going to see that too often. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think Kachi, like from a skill standpoint, you can't argue how great that dude's playing, right? We saw it last year before his injury. He's showing form this year. He's not here at the U.S. Open.
Which is weird.
Yeah, really weird. But we know the dude can play. We know he's got a monster break. I don't know. I mean, listen, if you think about those 4 guys, he's not in the best shape compared to them. So how much would that, like, you've played these long matchups. The last time you played Chris, you guys were playing till 5 a.m. Like, how much is health and fitness and being mentally sharp, like, part of that process?
It's huge. It's massive. I remember when I was 23, 24, I was playing, 10 headsets, and it was no big deal. It really wasn't. I was playing for 30 hours, 26 hours. I did those sessions a lot.
Yeah.
And I actually felt like I played stronger as I passed like hour 16, because you almost stop overthinking and you kind of just go and catch your groove. You're almost too tired to worry about pressure. But yeah, I'm 39 now. I can't do that shit.
That's how crazy is it what Shane was able to do? Because if you think about the first 6 hours, and I talked to Fedor about this yesterday, and he echoed as much. He was like, I was the better player through 5-6 hours of the day, and he's like, but between midnight and 4 a.m. is whenever he outplayed me, which is wild because Fedor's got 20 years on him in the youth category.
Right. But Shane has always been a freak of nature when it comes to practicing. And I think, I was in Germany with him. We practiced from like 10 a.m. to about 11 p.m. And I mean, he's just like hitting balls nonstop. He's kind of a freak. And all those hours of training, his body's gotten used to almost constant abuse and repetition. So when he's playing these matches and he doesn't sleep that well and he plays 12 hours a day, it's like a Tuesday afternoon for him.
He's also got this like hyper competitive itch that just he can't scratch, where it's just like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Listen, Federer and Shane love getting up for the money, Federer in particular. But I feel like for Shane, and this is just for me knowing him over the years, I felt like he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder and like the feeling kind of disrespected from seeing the money out there, where he thought, wait a minute, I've been doing this for a while. I've beaten every and anyone. Why is this dude a favorite? And he had something to prove.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, it eats at his ego.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Shane's an egomaniac.
Yeah.
I love Shane, but he's got a huge ego, and deservingly so. I mean, he's been a top player in the world, and especially in 10 ball for, better 15 years or so.
Right.
It's kind of scary how he could just turn it up. It shows you what a badass he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's wired differently, man, and it's inspiring. I mean, obviously, listen, we all wanted to win money when we bet that matchup, but like from just a fan standpoint, I mean, it was amazing to go and watch, because listen, I've seen Shane, you've seen Shane in a lot of events, Moscone Cups and otherwise. I've seen that guy broken. I've seen him show some quit at times during events. I thought Federer broke him in that third day, and then somehow Shane just has this way of saying, you know what, I'm already out, fuck this, I'm going to go and break the balls hard, and I'm just going to start two-stroking and three-stroking things and just get loose. And then he just like bobs and weaves his way into matchups, and that's what he did that night. It was like, I'm stuck 11, get it down to 8. Broke dry, let me get it down to 6. Back up to 8, let me get it down to 5. Back up to 8. And then by the time you know it, it's like, okay, now the heat's on at 4. Now it's at 3. Still couldn't break the balls, And then Federer just started doing some crazy stuff, and it was just like,
yeah, Federer's eventually going to break. I mean, pressure will burst pipes.
Yeah,
and they definitely burst blood vessels. So, yeah, I mean, it's normal. It's amazing that Federer withstood so much pressure to finally feel like, to take that hit where he took a step back.
Well, I talked to Jason Sword before, and we both kind of shared the same opinion, where it was like, I thought through the first day, Shane kind of stole one being up by 3. The second day, it felt like Shane was the better player, but then it's like, it's only a 7-game spread, and it didn't really feel comfortable. I was betting on Federer too, and I didn't like it, So even though that Shane's up by 7, it felt like my guy's still in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so when he came out swinging the way he did, seeing Shane, I mean, you guys couldn't see it on camera, but he was on Facebook. I mean, I'm joking, but like he was on his phone. He's all the body language things that we've seen from Shane every December. He was doing those things that day, and then somehow the dude wins 120, 116. Let me ask you, if Josh were to go and play, if that matchup does happen, who would you put your money on, just your gut? So I can bet the other way.
Oh, God. I got to bet Shane. I'm going to bet Shane because...
That's good, because I was thinking Josh.
Okay, I'm going to bet Shane.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I'm going to jump on the bandwagon.
I would go with Filler because, look, you want to talk about ego when it comes to Shane? Josh has got a massive ego too. And not like in an ugly way, neither one of those guys, but it's just like they hate to lose. Like they have this disdain for losing that like you see in like It reminds me of like Kobe almost, or like
Right.
a Jordan.
It makes them tick.
Yeah, yeah.
It's something that I think it's a personality trait.
And not to mention the fact that if the bet was right, he would go and figure out, because his only liability would be the break. From a tactical standpoint, I mean, obviously Shane's going to be the better mover, but if they're using a template, Josh can more than defend himself. He's young. He's got some feel in his game too, like similar to Shane, where it's just like he can, if he gets in the zone, it can be scary. And if he finds that break and gets in that zone, it can get real bloody.
And Shane's powerful break is, you have to, deduct a couple of points on its potency because of the tight pockets.
Yeah.
So you're playing on.
It'll offset a little bit.
It'll offset a little
right.
bit. So now it's more about playing patterns and run
which
out.
is smart by Josh to say, "Hey, I'll play you on some 4-inch pockets."
Yeah, that
he's
makes
not dumb.
Huge difference.
Yeah,
he's not dumb. Now, if it's 4.5-inch diamond, nobody in the world's going to beat Shane. Not Fedor, not anybody. Just because Shane's a rhythm player and he leaves himself long a lot, and he's going to pocket that ball. Shane on 4.5-inch pocket diamond, he's the baddest man on earth.
All right, let me ask you guys in the chat, who would you like if Fedor faces Shane on 4-inch pockets? We can see your comments on there. Got a comment from Jason Foster. You guys are going to be able to make it to the Texas Open inaugural Hall of Fame. I might. I'm not sure just yet. Kevin, who was directing that film and who's been a big part of the Texas Hall of Fame, we've been in contact a little bit, talked to him a few times. Great guy. And, I've been to the Open a lot, so we'll see what happens. It's been a long week. I mean, it's been a long trip for me up until this point, so I don't know if I'm going to make it to the Open, but we'll see how it goes. Let's switch over to the other Open, which is the U.S. Open, where we're at right now. Harris in Atlantic City. Is that where we are?
Yeah, we're in Atlantic City.
All right. Early on, you kind of think, all right, you're going to see a lot of chalk. You're going to start seeing some things that, you kind of weed through the dead money a little bit. Mm-hmm. Double J, though, yesterday, taking down Tyler Steyer, by far the news of the day. Give me your thoughts on that one.
So I actually showed up when it was Hill, and JJ made that amazing one ball. And there was a huge commotion. And I'm just BSing on the side. And when I heard that big commotion, it seems like everybody just gravitated towards that match. And JJ showed some serious grit because there was at least 50 to 60 people there watching. I mean, that's in the conservative side. All the players were watching, all the spectators, and they all just gravitated towards the table. And he showed some amazing grit to run out. Hill. That's a devastating defeat for Tyler because he did get a first-round bye, I believe. And then now he's on the loser side in one of the biggest tournaments in the world. So.
Well, it's also crunch time for you guys, yourself mm-hmm. included, Tyler, guys, all of you who are looking to make Moscone Cup runs mm-hmm. and who are vying for, automatic or a qualifying spot. Look, I saw a lot of that matchup at 3-1. That's whenever there started being like a buzz in the room. Like, okay, Jeremy's up on Tyler. And then, Tyler came back and made it. I think it was like 5-5. So you're thinking, okay, we've seen Tyler do well recently. He's going to beat Jeremy. Right? He's going to beat Jeremy. And then there was a crowd throughout, and it slowly but surely got bigger and bigger and bigger. You can tell both guys felt the pressure a little bit. Tyler, you can see it on his face. Jeremy, he's got the sweaty hands. I'm going to go and wipe my towel 4 times during that run out. Yeah. But to your credit, I mean, the coach showed some form, and he came with it when it was time.
I mean, that's the thing about these guys. Just because they're not actively playing a lot of the events doesn't mean they fall dead. I mean, Jeremy Jones is a U.S. Open champion. That he's a badass.
Yeah.
He's not competitive anymore, so he's missing balls that he shouldn't. He's getting older. Father Time doesn't stop for anybody. And Tyler's in his prime. Tyler's hitting balls every day.
Breaking the ball's great.
Breaking unreal. I mean, he's shooting good. It's my understanding that Tyler didn't have his best performance. So, it sucks for him.
Well, you would think that you see Tyler with a bye and he deserves one because he's been playing great lately. And then you see Jeremy Jones on there and you think, okay, maybe, but you would,
you unload on Tyler.
You would bet on Tyler. First, you get it even. You know what I mean? The money line would have been Tyler minus 250, 300. You know what I mean?
Easily.
Yeah, laying that against in a race tonight.
In a race tonight.
Yeah. 4-inch pockets, the U.S. Open. Now I know they weren't playing on TV table, but look, let's be real, and you had success starting off this year. You've kind of, had some hiccups in the last couple of events, but like right now is the time for you guys who are fighting for spots to where you got to come up with these quality wins. And when it gets time for October, November, wins and losses are something that we're going to go and reflect on. He's playing right now on TV table. Sky's going to go and reflect on when it comes to thinking about you guys who are on the cusp or fighting for a spot.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'd be lying to you if I didn't feel the pressure out in Helsinki and European. I'm supposed to beat Conrad, and I dogged it, and that's when I started really trying to reduce the amount of stress that I'm putting on myself. And I think Tyler could have done that to himself as well, because we're all human beings and we all want that goal. But I root for Tyler, I root for BJ, I root for Billy and all the guys. Just because I don't like.
But you want to beat them.
I want to beat them, but I don't want to create that negative energy among myself.
Yeah.
And
well, that's the weird dynamic, is because you guys everyone is scoreboard watching each other, but then, and you're kind of, depending on where you're at, you're rooting for one guy versus another. At the same time, though, once that's all said and done, come December, if you're on the team, you got to be teammates with the same guy you've been basically rooting against, more or less.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there is a dynamic of that. I mean, we're all competitors. We all want to win. At the end of the day, we want to win. And there's a lot riding on the Moscone Cup. So, yeah, I mean, is it beneficial that Tyler doesn't do well for me personally? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. But do I wish that upon him? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I think the same goes for Tyler with myself. We have a good friendship. And
right.
A good camaraderie. We're friends. We go way back. But
look, the beauty of the format is you go and win, no one can stop you, right? You have a good U.S. Open run, no matter who it is, right? There can be a young, Payne McBride type player. There can be a young Sam Henderson, where if the guy gets in a semifinal of a U.S. Open, guess what, kid? You're in contention right now.
Yeah.
Where you weren't otherwise. And it's almost like that Cinderella Mickey Krause opportunity. You know what I mean? Where if you want it, go get it.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's not easy because you got to fade, in this tournament, 200 and some odd monsters. But that's part of the, good and bad of the World 9-Ball Tour, is that you can go and play your way, out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is where the dollar stuff makes things a little bit tricky. If you have a good World Championships.
Well, I mean, there's got to be some way to balance it all out, because with one good World Championship, you can basically make the team, which is great to some extent. But then it's it really discounts everything else, or discredits everything else throughout the year. It discredits the European, the U.S. You know what I mean? Because if it was closer to even,
right?
Or there was a way to where, obviously the World Championship should be weighted more, but when you're talking about that difference in payouts, it's astronomically. You can't make up that ground.
No, it's impossible. I mean, can you imagine? Are you going to put more emphasis on, let's say, Helsinki? What a great tournament that was, right? Great players. I wasn't a fan of the Fedor tables, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. You win 8,000 euros.
Yeah.
Or you get top 32 at the World Championship and you get $7,000. What's harder?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think for me, and I want the players who are the most consistent to get out there.
Right.
Because you have these tournaments where we saw in the UK Open where it was not unknowns, but 4 unlikely players who made it into the Final Four. We saw last year a Dang versus Bosch final at the European Open. Don't get me wrong, I love Cinderellas, and I want guys to have an opportunity where they can parlay a good performance. But at the end of the day, guys who are showing consistent form should get rewarded. You've had 2 finals appearances, losing to Huang and Jonas. You know what I mean? And then you can have other tournaments where they're a little bit softer. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Where the payouts can be close. So it's just should they be weighted the same?
I don't think so. But again, that's something for Emily to.
Well, I don't mind asking tough questions.
You got to ask Emily that question. I think,
and I will. And I've seen Emily around. I'm sure we're going to have her on the show this week. We are going to plan on doing a lot of shows throughout the week. I'm going to try to do some pregame and postgame stuff. I've been kind of sleeping in lately, so it's just the Shane and Fedor one kind of wrecked me a little bit. I'm a
No,
little
I can
tired.
tell. I can tell.
A
Yeah.
little wore out. But yeah, we're gonna be doing some pregame, postgame stuff. Big shout out to all of our sponsors who helped get me out here, and Mucci, Pat's Billiards, the League Room, Dragon Billiards. We couldn't do it without you guys. Michelle Griffin, of course. So actually, Michelle was a huge part of me going out to Shane versus Fedor. Cannot thank her enough. Really, if you guys enjoyed any of the coverage, go show her some love because she was by far the MVP. All right, let's talk U.S. Open again. Who do you like to win this tournament? Obviously, outside of yourself.
You have to throw Fedor and Shane as probably the two favorites because they just got through absolutely torturing themselves for 3 days straight. And iron sharpens iron. Other than that, Filler's always a dangerous player. And I kind of see the Polish contingent. They're real strong right now. I think they're due for a big tournament.
Well, I mean, look, I'm big on Team Poland. And one of my guys who I love on the Polish team, my boy Victor. You want to talk about an upset yesterday? Oof. Hennessy. They've had a little bit of history online of barking at each other. Give me your thoughts on that one a little bit.
Well, it's not going to be a popular opinion. Hennessy, I respect him tremendously as a graded player.
But
he's not going to win Sportsmanship of the Year award anytime soon.
He ain't winning no popularity contest.
No,
let's just be honest.
And I told him actually to his face. And I'll say this again. I'll repeat it. And I'm not proud of what I said to him. And I it's not something I would ever. Nobody deserves to be talked like this, but I said it. I said, how does it feel to be how does it feel that only like 2 people on this earth like you? I literally told him that to his face.
What's funny is that you're like the nicest dude, like and I'm not just saying that because we're boys.
Yeah,
like
I was out of line, and in retrospect, I do take responsibility.
Listen, we all got reputations. I was talking with Darren yesterday, and he's just like, you've been stirring up some shit. Like we all got reputations for a reason, and you gotta like if the shoe fits Cinderella, you kind of have to wear it a little bit. If guys love you, they love you, and if they don't, they don't. If they respect you, great. But it's just like it is what it is.
Yeah, he doesn't beat a lot of opponents. I feel like a lot of opponents lose to him.
Well, let me tell you something.
Because he's intimidating.
On that note, he intimidated Victor.
Oh, of course
before the match even started because we saw him yesterday. He was already sweating the fact that he was playing him. I mentioned the fact they have a little bit of history. We've seen it online, them chirping back and forth. They played each other before in a tournament. And it seemed like Hennessy was already in his head
100%.
Before they even flipped the coin.
100%. I mean, Victor's like, I can't believe they let this guy play. I mean, just on complete tilt. And, he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong, but you also can't let that affect you and have that trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned as I've gotten older and a little bit more mature, a little bit more life experience, is that you're not going to be liked by everybody, and you're not going to like everybody. So
it's impossible.
It's impossible. So you know what?
Look, you gotta respect Tennessee's game because he can come up with some big wins and quality wins at spots and tournaments. Mm-hmm. He's known more to be like a regional bar table player here in the U.S., but he's here at the U.S. Open. Great start for him, and you got to give him credit there. I mean, even though we can talk about the mental side when it comes to Victor, Hennessy beat him pretty handily, pretty easily, rather out there. And so, like we talked about when it comes to opportunity, hey, listen, a guy like Hennessy can come and do well in a tournament and earn his way on, at least to be part of the conversation. And then who knows? And so, but on Victor, God, I really wish that dude would have just, he's got to toughen up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is,
and I love the kid, but he's got to toughen up.
The world's not a nice place. You got to wear a helmet sometimes and just take your beatings
especially the fact that listen, you're fighting for a spot to make it on a team in December. Like it's brutal out there. Yeah. You've heard the boos and the cheers and guys kneeling you and seeing stuff on social media and just torturing you when you're out there in the crowd. Like it's a part of it. So it's just like if you can't fade that, how are you going to fade?
No, you're not.
A crowd in December.
You're not. You won't. And I mean, he's young and stuff, and he needs to mature. And first of all, let me clear this out. If Hennessy doesn't make it on points, he's never going to get a wild card. I can guarantee you that.
No.
I mean,
you're not breaking any news there.
You're not breaking. I mean, let me throw that out there for the public. He's probably the most disliked player in the history of pool.
I mean, Mike Deshane's here.
Deshane has Here's the thing: Deshane's cool off the table. He's fine. I've roomed with Deshane. He was actually pleasant. We don't have a good relationship as much, but just because he writes checks. Sometimes he can't cash.
I think part of that was maybe immaturity.
Yeah, maturity on his part. I mean,
we all grow up. We all were dumbasses before at some
right.
point. You know?
And I just think Hennessy's a consistent asshole,
Sure.
and that is what people don't. It's a negative vibe, negative energy.
Well, listen, Hennessy has to do a lot for him to be part of a conversation when it comes to Moscone Cup or otherwise. Victor, on the other hand, he's very much in contention, where that's the reason why that loss yesterday. And it was huge. The same thing last year. Last year he was in contention, didn't play in Hanoi because of politics, came up a little bit short in the U.S. Open. Now here you are again. You're like right on the fringe, but let's face it, like we've seen Europeans where they're great in tournaments, they can show consistency, but like you got to be able to handle the pressure to take that next step. Victor shows a lot of promise, obviously has a lot of talent, but you gotta handle the things that you're supposed to go and handle out there. Hennessy should have been one of them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where maybe Victor needs to, live in the U.S. a little bit more and deal with.
Yeah.
The thing is, Europe is so stoic and so the pool's like a gentleman's sport, and they're just not used to dealing with people who are sharking, people who are making moves.
Yeah.
All this stuff is foreign territory to guys like Victor. And
well, it's not going to be stiff and boring, at the Moscone Cup.
Yeah.
And so guys are going to want to get in your head, especially if they know that you can't handle it. You know what I mean? And even the guys who can handle it, they're still going to try. We saw it last year with guys trying to get in Fedor's head, right? Like there's these like mind games that you play, and personally, I love it. You as a player probably don't like it as much, but like it's a part of it, and you got to anticipate it, and that's where you have to separate yourself if you want to be part of that December conversation, and that's what all you guys are fighting for all year long. Now is the time. I remember last year seeing guys like Alexa and Sanjin. We talked about him earlier. Who they were like 1 or 2 rounds away from making it on a Moscone Cup, which is crazy because they're young, but they're so talented. And here we are again at another U.S. Open. Odds are you're probably going to see another Cinderella. You're probably going to see a kid who's just maybe wasn't a part of the conversation, maybe in the distance, but who can make a run. You are, what are we sitting at right now, number 5? Points? Number 4. So you got great opportunity right now to make up some ground to get back in the top 3. So it's just like, these are the storylines, but you got to go and show it out there.
Yeah, and that's huge. There's a lot of pressure there, and I think the Europeans are feeling it. Everyone's feeling it a little bit, especially when they're sweating their points leaders, and I see like Robbie Capito out there sweating it because the Reyes Cup. It's interesting. It's a lot of fun.
Look, it's great, and I know it's not easy for you guys being on the road, but from a fan standpoint, it's awesome to see like these rounds of tournaments can be a little dull. Let's just be real. Like in years past, I should say. You know what I mean? Like if you're gambling, if you're sweating it, that's a whole other thing. But like now, because there's so many factors at play, Reyes Cup, Moscone Cup, right? You can play your way onto like a World Pool Masters type of deal. It's just like you're scoreboard watching and throughout the entire one because you're seeing, oh, this guy's making a move. Oh, this guy lost early.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's really awesome. You guys can check out all the action on DAZN, also on Matchroom Live on their YouTube, and then Matchroom Pool if you're here in the U.S. as well. All right, you mentioned Shane and Federer. I kind of have to agree with you a little bit because when it comes to being a favorite, and I know it's chalk. Obviously, Federer is going to be part of that conversation as well. But the fact that Koch is not here, big deal.
That's huge.
Big deal.
I mean, but he's locked up, right?
Yeah.
And Kachi is Kachi, he's perfection, right? With the tattoo, tattoo says so. I think he wants to take a break too. I mean, I took a break from Rax and I felt like it was doing me good, but this is the U.S. Open. You can't really miss this tournament, and it's surprising that he isn't here.
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's because he already secured a spot. Maybe it was visa issues. Who knows? Obviously, there's a lot of shit going on when it comes to the WPA, and that's part of something that's been kind of hanging over the air here at the room. And it was the same thing last year. We saw it where, Hanoi was very much on everyone's mind and kind of being whispered about. I remember hearing it last year, and just everyone's enjoying the U.S. Open, right? The same thing as this year. But like, it was, what's going to happen with Hanoi? What's going to happen with these players? There's a real threat of top players not making it. It's great that a lot of the guys kind of band together. And we're going to talk more about that as the week progresses. But give me your pick when it comes to the U.S. Open. Give me a couple of outsiders that maybe you would have your eye
on. Probably an outsider to have my eye on that I felt was playing really well as of late. It's been Mickey Cross, and not because he won the European Open. I feel Mickey's been playing really good probably since March or April. You see his confidence. He's falling down on the ball really well. He banks great. He runs out good. He's got a strong break. He's a real big dark horse that people never really took into consideration.
Well, they're taking into consideration
now. Miško Fortunski. I love his game. He's ultra aggressive. He shoots at these 4-inch pockets like it's a bar table. I've played him a few times, and he's always been one of the most underrated players out there. And probably, who else am I missing?
I'm going to go out on one right there. Michelle in the chat says Vitali. You got to give that kid a lot of credit. He's showing a lot of form whenever he's playing here in the U.S. Obviously, things are going on where it limits his opportunity to go and travel. But if you're going to have me list 5 guys who break the ball great in this format, Vitali's going to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, Vitali breaks great.
He breaks the balls really good.
Really good.
The problem for me is I haven't seen him play enough when it comes to this top level competition for whatever reason, right? And so that's where the question mark's going to come into play for a guy like him. Mickey, hey, the guy's showing a lot of form, but he's already locked up a spot. So how hungry is he going to continue to be this year? And there's a few other Europeans that I'm also just like a Victor type of guy who I'm keeping my eye on. A lot of mention when it comes to the Filipinos. I spoke with Bernie. Bernie looked really good as well, which is awesome. Pius is another guy that I'm taking a look at because we saw him play well. You saw him at Derby play very well. And remember that gambling match.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Let me tell you something. We were at the Derby, and
bringing up bullshit.
Oscar says, I got a game. I said, okay, who you got a game? He's like, Pius. Well, what are y'all do? What are y'all gonna do? We're gonna play some one pocket. I'm like, can I get in on it? I mean, what's the deal? I mean, okay. I mean, you can play some one pocket with Pius. Labutus? Yeah. He says, yeah. Didn't get in on it. I thought you were stealing. Little did I know, Pius plays very well. He ended up going on to get in the finals of Derby City. I don't mean to bring up bullshit, but the Europeans who do gamble with you, they end up showing out pretty good because you gambled Mickey. Now he's playing great. You gambled Pius. He played great.
I just pick him, don't I? I just pick him great.
That you ought to go and start chart. They ought to chart, like pay you, go and gamble with you, and then you can go on a run because the last 2 have been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's unreal. I mean, I did that with Ruslan, and he goes on a rampage and starts winning everything.
I didn't mean to bring up.
Send me a Christmas card.
I didn't mean to bring up bullshit.
Yeah, thank you.
We're here at the U.S. Open. We're going to try to do some post-game stuff a little later on today. We'll try to get more guests on as well. What's your plan for the rest of the day, man?
I'm going to go have breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to call it.
It's like 2 o'clock.
I know. Well, it's lunch for me. I'm starving. I haven't eaten all day. Get some coffee, and then practice on the practice tables whenever possible.
All right, yeah. Go sweat the action at Matchroom Pool, The Zone. If you're in the U.S., we'll have some more guests on and some more coverage from the U.S. Open. Big shout out to all of our sponsors. We couldn't do it without you guys, and we'll